POV, you're learning how to implement multiplayer in Godot 4.0, but the demo for multiplayer is outdated. This is the video for you. In this tutorial, I will show you how to build a multiplayer lobby in Godot 4.0 by updating the 3.0 Websocket demo. Download the files for this project by following the link in the description. To begin creating the lobby, first get your hands on the Websocket demo for Godot 3.0, link in the description. Unpack the project and import it into Godot. When you try and open it, you will get this prompt. Choose to convert the full project. Now we'll just try running the project to see what errors we get. The first thing you'll see is that we get an error on the label. A number of things have changed, so select a label to look at the variables. You will see that the variable name has changed, so right-click here, select Copy Property Path, then double-click on the property and paste the name in to change it. The enumeration for the value has also changed. We can either set it as the number, in this case 1 because it's the second in the list, or we can hold Ctrl and press the label text. Holding Ctrl and clicking an underlined word will open up the docs for that word. From here we can select the property and then view the enumerations here. Copy this text and paste it as the assigned value. The next error is about WebSocket server, which is depreciated. I have seen from other examples that the new class to use for implementing multiplayer peers is eNet multiplayer peer. It has changed further though, as the way it works now is by creating a server or a client using the same peer. So we can move this declaration to a global position and into the ready function using onReady so that we can use it for the server and the client connection. Change the variable name to multiplayer peer and use it to create a server in the onHostPressed function. This function calls when the host button is pressed. We need a port to create the server, which is already declared at the top. Paste the variable name defPort into the parameter. The server will start listening immediately, so we can delete this line. All references to getTree must be changed to multiplayer, which is a new property that is available to all classes. Make sure to change all references to peer to multiplayer peer, as we have changed the name of that eNet multiplayer peer variable, which we declared at the top. Now repeat this process for the connect button with a few changes. Firstly, create the client in the same way we created the server. The client needs a URL as well as a port to be created, which we can grab from this text edit box. Create a var to capture this text with a node path to the text box, and then create this check to make sure it's not empty. Finally, add the text to the parameter. The client connects as soon as it is created, so we do not need this line. Change all of these getTree functions to multiplayer. Now run the program again to see what errors we get. This error is referring to a non-existent function in the game node, which has this script attached to it, which we will open and update. The first thing you'll notice is that Godot has generated these messages for us when it tried to convert the code. Just comment it out for now. Run it again and you will see that these references to getTree are messing us up. So replace all the references to getTree with multiplayer. I just used the replace function. Running the program again, we now see that the host button works, but the disconnect button throws some errors at us. The first error is this show modal function of the accept dialog box, which has been changed to simply show. I also remember that this getClose button function has changed to getOK button, probably in the name of positive thinking. This accept dialog box is also in a weird place, so just move it to the middle by changing its position variable. Make sure it is hidden by default. Now I see more getTree references, which I continue to replace with multiplayer in the main script. Now that the disconnect button works fine for the server, let's run multiple instances to test the client by selecting debug, run multiple instances. Now, when we try to connect, we don't get any errors, but nothing happens. I know what's supposed to happen is the server is supposed to recognize that the client joined and add it to the list. Either the client is not connecting or the server is not recognizing it. Before we get to that, let's see if we can get rid of these warnings. The first warning is telling us to use an enum instead of an integer. We can find this enum in the same way as before by holding Control and selecting this command. Follow this link to the system directory property, which will give us our list of enumerations. Copy the enumeration corresponding with 0 and paste it into the brackets prefixed with OS, the name of the class that it belongs to. We have a lot of warnings about shadow variables, which are just variables with names that are already in use. Most nodes have a name property, so using name for new variables has the potential to cause issues. I fixed this issue by adding an underscore to the beginning of each reference to name. Now we have no warnings, but the connect button still doesn't work. At least we know that this error is not caused by any of the warnings. It just so turns out that I did not set the multiplayer peer for the client, so copy this line from the host button and paste it into the connect button in order to do so. I now add this check to the host button to make sure that it either connects or throws an error message to the user. Get the connection status from the multiplayer peer and check if it's disconnected, and if it is, get the OS to alert the user. The connect button works now, but it throws this error. It's telling us that the set player name is not allowed because its mode is 2 and the authority is 1. This simply means that the client is unable to use the function because it's not the network authority. Let's find this function and investigate further. This is where Godot sent us a message earlier to use different tags. After the remote procedure call, RPC, add the following conditions: any peer and call local. Any peer means that any peer, the client or the server, can call it, whereas by default it's just the server. Call local means that it will always call this function on the server no matter who requests it. Basically, this will allow the client to send its name to the server so that the server can list it by name in the item list. Now when we run our program, we get no errors when we connect, although we do get errors when disconnecting and trying to reconnect. This probably has to do with the disconnect functions. The error message indicates that the multiplayer instance is already connected, which means that it did not disconnect properly. In the close network function, add a new line of code to disconnect the multiplayer peer, multiplayerpeer.close. Now we are getting the error message of a non-existent function remove on base array. This is because the function has changed names to remove at, probably to indicate that it requires an integer and to further distinguish it from the arrays function. This other error is caused because I commented out useful code by mistake, but it doesn't matter. Basically, it was trying to connect signals that were already connected, and I removed the code that disconnects the signals on network close. When we close the multiplayer, we need to create a new one for reconnecting. So copy this declaration from the top and paste it into the close connection function to create a new empty peer after the old one closes. Now I actually try to play the game, and I get this error that the request action function is not allowed because its mode is 2 and the authority is 1. This is the same error as before, and we can give access to the client by adding the anyPeer keyword to the remote procedure tag, as well as the call local keyword. When we try play the game, it works perfectly. I pushed the testing further by running 3 instances of the game at once, with no issues. The only problem is that when I close the host or server, we get some errors, and this is because I have not coded this eventuality. In the peer disconnected function, add a condition that checks if the disconnected peer is the server by checking if the ID parameter equals 1, which will always be the unique ID of the server. Now when we try closing the server connection, all the clients disconnect immediately. These errors that I'm getting now are due to the fact that I commented out those useful signal disconnections. I fixed this error by moving the signal connections to the ready function as opposed to the button. But you won't have to do this if you did not comment out the signal disconnects like I did. Here is the updated project with the code uncommented and the two signal connections back in the right place. As you can see, it works perfectly, and you can download this demo project by following the link in the description. My game Leylands is going fantastically, and the reason I made this tutorial is because I spent an inordinate amount of time trying to get the multiplayer to work. It was kind of serendipitous that as soon as I got to the point in my game design where I wanted to implement multiplayer, Godot 4.0 updated automatically and all of my demo projects were deleted. I spent a whole day updating my game to Godot 4.0 and then I tried to learn the new multiplayer, which was quite confusing due to the fact that there's very little resources about it online and most of the resources are about Godot 3.0. I then spent way too much time trying to update this demo to 4.0 while simultaneously trying to learn about synchronizers and spawners, which I tried to use to actually update this demo originally before I learned the magic of RPC calls. But now that I feel like I've mastered the basics of RPC as well as the spawners and the synchronizers, I'm in a good place to finish the multiplayer of my game, and then everything will be finished and I'll be ready to publish. You can become a playtester for the game by donating to my Patreon, which will give you access to the beta. I'll also be posting a devlog just outlining all my progress. It's quite exciting as I've kind of finished all the foundations for my game, and from now it's just going to be adding cool details and mechanics. If you found this video useful or if you enjoyed it and you would like to see more game design related content or animation or just want to see more of me, please subscribe, hit the like button and the bell button, and I'll see you around soon. Thanks very much. Love you lots.